So welcome all of you. Today we are beginning a new topic, Bhagavad Gita and the concept of yoga. Now when you mention the word yoga these days, we very often think of a set of physical exercises, meditation exercises, breathing exercises, different postures that we learn under a teacher in a very organized, traditional, regular way. Those of you who have not yet become familiar with this yoga ideal as expounded in Bhagavad Gita, I shall give a brief introduction. These exercises, breathing exercises, meditation exercises, physical postures, they are very important, they are very useful for keeping our mind and body healthy, strong and steady and peaceful. But then they are only a preparation for a higher yoga. These are helpful, no doubt. See, if you practice regular breathing, you feel our mind becomes calm and quiet. So there is a fundamental principle which the great teacher of yoga describes in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras and elaborately described in the Sanskrit commentaries on Patanjali's work. When you are tired, when you are shocked, when you are excited, we feel that our breathing pattern gets disturbed. Our breathing becomes irregular. This happens when you get excited or even you get physically exhausted. So any kind of disturbing emotion or even attitude or experience creates a disturbance in the breathing pattern. Now, if we apply this principle backward, if breathing can be regularized, if breathing can be properly disciplined, then mind becomes calm and quiet. When mind is disturbed, breathing becomes disturbed. So if breathing could be made regular according to set pattern, then mind will naturally be peaceful and calm. So as a result, now based on this principle, the great yoga thinkers, I'm talking about the great teachers of yogic exercises, they evolved this principle. You practice a set of physical breathing exercises which helps you to breathe regularly, and that will naturally help you to keep your mind calm and quiet. The same principle is applied. Now, calmness within, quietude, tranquility, a sense of harmony with our own being, which we call peace, which in a higher sense is called happiness, contentment. This is the whole of human existence. We are ready to spend millions or trillions of dollars for one thing, for peace of mind. Sometimes this search for peace of mind takes us on the wrong track. People become alcoholics, drug addicts. They become obsessed with many different types of mental and physical distractions just to get a little peace of mind. by running away from themselves, by running away from the world of realities, by running away from the world of difficult, unpleasant, real experiences around. Now, Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras evolved a system of yoga philosophy and yoga way of life. And two great Indian sages evolved a set of physical exercises that will help you to enjoy this peace of mind by breathing, by practicing breathing exercises, by meditation. Gheranda Samhita and Hatha Yoga Pratipika. These are two famous Sanskrit books. There are different views as to that time, the age in which these books were composed. According to some historians and scholars, they were written around 3rd or 4th century BC. A number of physical exercises, breathing exercises, are prescribed. Now, as I said earlier, beyond this, there is a higher yoga. And that yoga is the goal, and the physical exercise aspect of yoga is the means, one of the many means, not the only means, is a path that could help us to practice certain meditation exercises that can help us to enjoy peace and harmony within. The word yoga is sometimes defined as union, as transcending, and so on. Vedanta philosophy teaches that there is one supreme reality that is omnipresent everywhere. And that reality is the immanent principle within all of us. But very often we think we are just these physical bodies. And then anything that happens in our physical life, anything which disturbs our physical existence, becomes a great dilemma, a great problem, and we are highly disturbed. Our estimate of ourselves is so low that we think very often that we are just these physical bodies. So anything that happens at the physical level will be a great problem. It completely destroys our peace of mind. If we think we are something beyond this body, we are the mind or the intellect, then any disturbing thoughts or experience at the mental and physical level could have a crushing effect on our life. But Vedanta tells us, Bhagavad Gita tells us, that we are neither the physical bodies, nor the mind, nor the intellect. Physical bodies, mind, intellect are only different aspects of our personality. Our true personality is beyond all this. It is trans-physical. It is trans-psychological. It is the eternal, all-pervading, immanent reality, which is never disturbed by anything, which is always in a perpetual state of blissfulness, contentment, tranquility, and happiness. That is our true nature. Physical disturbance or mental disturbance is alien to us. Our true nature is perfect tranquility and harmony within. So yoga is a homeward journey. It is an attempt, a search to recognize our true nature. It is not a new knowledge. See, you are left your home, you're wandering far away, and it gets dark, very cold. you'll be eager to get back home in the evening. So when you get back to your home, it is not a new attainment. It is the place where you belong to. It's the place which belongs to you. In other words, yoga is our true nature. Anything which disturbs us, anything that creates a disturbance in our mind, the physical or the mental or the psychological disturbances, aspects are only secondary aspects. Once we recognize that we are beyond this body, beyond this mind, then nothing in this world can shake us. We can live in this world. At the same time, we can enjoy inner peace and harmony, tranquility. At the same time, we can live in peace and harmony with the rest of the world. And Bhagavad Gita teaches us a total philosophy, a total attitude of yoga, which helps us to live in peace with ourselves and at the same time to live in peace with the rest of the world. That is the uniqueness of Gita. Now, I would say something about Bhagavad Gita. Most of you must have read, maybe still just a brief introduction to the text and also to the context of the Gita. Gita is a very, very small book. 700 verses. It must have taken its present shape around 2000 BC or even earlier. Because according to modern historians, the events which are described in this text took place in 3326 BC. This is an estimate. This is the calculation of many prominent historians, both Indian historians and also Western European Indologists. 3326 BC is the date normally fixed for the events that took place in the particular age in which Gita was preached and taught. And this book must have taken its present shape around 2000 BC. It is a small part of a much larger work. And the larger work is known as Mahabharata. This Mahabharata describes a war, a confrontation that took place between two warring groups, two groups belonging to the same family tree, the same dynastic tradition. Now, we have to remember, at the very beginning, I must tell you, many of you, just as a brief, it's not a warning, it's a caution. Those of you who have read something about Gita, at least a few of us may think that Gita is a book about war, which it is not. Gita is a book about human life. Gita is a book that tells us how to live in this world. When we work for 12 hours in the office, from morning 7 o'clock till evening 7 o'clock, when we get back home, when we get physically and mentally tired, sometimes we get depressed. People sometimes take to alcoholics and drugs. Gita tells us how to avoid this, how to develop a positive attitude towards our life. So physical exhaustion sometimes can take us away from our track. or if there is a dilemma, a depressing experience in our family life, or you lose your job, you are searching for a job for some years, you are not able to get a job, you worked hard on a big project, and finally you don't succeed in obtaining your goal. So depression, conflicts, disappointments. What do we do? Who can help us? Gita asks us how to solve the problems ourselves. Gita doesn't talk about a God to whom we pray and who solves our problems on our behalf. What Gita does is, it teaches us certain things which makes us strong, mentally and spiritually strong, so that we can laugh at the problems. Instead of being overcome by the depressive or the disappointing conflicts, experiences around, we can become so strong that the problems appear to be no more problems. We can live in this world and take everything in our stride. That is the uniqueness of Gita. This aspect of Gita was taken up by a great Chinese philosopher, Lao Tzu. There's an interesting poem which he repeats, which is actually a Chinese interpretation of a verse in the Gita. I will explain the verse. This Chinese philosopher says, "Act in repose, be at rest when you work. Relish unfavored things, great or small, frequent or rare. Take hard jobs in hand while they are easy, and great affairs too while they are small." The paraphrase reads like this: "The paradox of acting without doing anything, or of simultaneous work and rest, or relishing the flavorless, resolved by the miracle of the way. The wise man is always serious because he knows how small troubles grow great, and he deals with them while they are easy to handle. The king achieves greatness by choosing hard things before they choose him." Now, in Gita, there is a very wonderful verse. As an introduction to the philosophy of Gita, this verse may be the best introduction. The verse is this: "Karmani akarmaya pasyet, akarmani cha karmayeha, sabuddhiman manusheshu, sayuktaha krishna karmakrit." This is the verse. Now, this verse, this Sanskrit verse, describes a person who is Krishna karmakrit, means a person who is engaged 24 hours of the day, who works maybe in an office, as a housewife, or a teacher, or a family, or a factory worker, or a farmer, who is always engaged, who is not sitting somewhere in Olema retreat, growing a beard, sitting under a tree and meditating. No, sometimes we could imagine that if we go to a forest where there is nobody, we can sit and enjoy peace of mind. But Gita says that is not the real peace of mind. The real peace of mind is the peace of mind that you enjoy when you are interacting with the rest of the world, when you are so busy that you have no time to take rest. If we can be active and at the same time enjoy peace of mind, that is the real yoga. In fact, that is the yoga which Lao Tzu, the Chinese philosopher, is talking about here. The verse is this: "Karmani akarmaya pasyet." The one who experiences inaction, it may read like a paradox. The one who enjoys, the one who experiences inaction in action and experiences action in inaction. Who is he? The Sanskrit word used by Lord Krishna, the teacher of Bhagavad Gita, is Sabuddhiman, is a really intelligent person. Who is an intelligent person? Sometimes we think people who are restless, instead of walking, they jump, they run, very active, 13, 14 hours of the day, and spend a lot of dollars, and we normally think they're very efficient. But if you look their medical records, depression, melancholia, diabetes, hypertension, all these problems, after working hard for 14 hours, 15 hours, they want to run away from themselves. They want to forget the problems that arise in the mind. Gita teaches us how to be active at the same time enjoy perfect restfulness. How is this possible? The method is simple. Suppose we are very active and we feel, I'm working a lot, I'm getting tired, no, I need rest. Oh, people they take alcoholic drinks. Why? They think they are the physical bodies. Now, suppose we always identify ourselves with this body. As I said, every experience of exhaustion, conflict, will have a crushing effect on the mind, as I said earlier. Suppose, even while being active, we consider ourselves to be something beyond this body, beyond this mind, which gets tired at the end of the day. Something beyond all this, the all-pervading Atman. That's the term Gita uses, Atman. The all-pervading reality. If we can establish a link between our mind and this thought, well, I am not just this physical body which gets tired. I am not this mind which gets depressed. I am not this intellect which gets bored. But I am something beyond all this. This action at the physical level, mental level, all these are necessary, but my true personality transcends all this, goes beyond all this. So if you establish a bridge, a link between what we consider ourselves to be and what we really are, then the problem is solved. I quoted this on a few occasions from Gandhi's life. Now, Gandhiji was one of the most active persons the world has ever seen. He used to sleep only for 4 hours a day. All the time he was organizing Indians against the British Empire. And all the time he was fasting and asking people to fast. So if you look at him from one angle, he was a mighty big organizer and agitator. So naturally such a man cannot be expected to be enjoying a lot of peace within. Can you imagine a politician who goes about organizing people against the foreign government to be enjoying peace of mind? But Gandhi was one of those persons who experienced maximum peace of mind. And all the time he was engaged in activities which we normally consider to be very disturbing type of activities. Moving about, agitating people against the British Empire, fasting, certainly not a very pleasant experience. And somebody asked him, most probably C.F. Andrews, he was a British disciple of Gandhi, admirer, who lived with him, who moved with him. Gandhi, why don't you go on a holidays? You are tired. Gandhi says, who is tired? Gandhi put this counter question. Now, if you look at Gandhi's life, behind all these activities, he considered himself to be an instrument in the hands of God. So he didn't consider himself to be a 120-pound human being. Otherwise he would have been tired, because he was such a frail man. 125 pounds only. And this man was so active, but he was so wise that while being engaged in activities all the time, he could enjoy perfect peace of mind, harmony and peace within. So Gita, this particular verse which I quoted earlier, it describes 3 characteristics of a yogi according to Gita. One is he's very intelligent, which means he's all the time active, but he's so intelligent that actions do not catch him. Actions do not disturb him. Actions could not make a ripple on his mind. He could enjoy perfect peace of mind. There are many people who work a few hours and then they delude themselves into thinking that they have done mighty big work. And this thought will have a tiring effect on their mind and body both. But Gandhi thought, well, he's an instrument in the hands of God. This is one path. Gandhi was essentially a karma yogi and a devotee. Then another word is buddhiman manushya yukta. The word, Sanskrit word, I want to go back to that term because it is very, yukta means yogi, the one who has experienced yoga. Yoga means establishing a link, a bridge, a connecting link between our individual limited personality, our limited understanding of what we are, and the universal spiritual dimension of our true nature. So once we establish this link, then actions cannot make us tired. Even when we are engaged in action, we can enjoy perfect peacefulness, happiness and restfulness, because we can look upon actions as inactions. Actions are done by the body, mind, intellect. Body has to follow its rules and regulations. So also mind. But I am something beyond this body, beyond this mind, beyond all this. So what happens at the physical level doesn't affect me. I am something beyond all this. This is the technique which Gita prescribes for all of us. And third point is Krishna karma krit. That is Sanskrit. Krishnam karma karoti yaha Krishna karma krit. This is Sanskrit description. Meaning is this: the one who does everything. He doesn't run away from work. So that gives a very realistic, very practical interpretation of what yoga is all about. Gita says that person who enjoys perfect peace of mind even while being engaged in activities all the time, he is the really intelligent person. Buddhiman word is. And he is a yogi because he has established a link between his limited small personality and the universal, unlimited, the ever blissful, the ever restful, the ever peaceful dimension of his true personality. But then this is not done by running away from our duties and responsibilities. This is done in the midst of all activities. So the word is used, Krishna karma, the one who does everything. He works or she works as a housewife. He or she works as a professor, a factory worker, maybe a politician, a social reformer, or a teacher, a householder, a monk, anybody for that matter. Does everything, but at the same time enjoys perfect peacefulness, harmony and restfulness within. Now, what is the impact of this experience of inner restfulness? It helps you to interact with the rest of the world in a state of perfect harmony and peace. If we are disturbed within, then our interaction with the rest of the world also will be disturbed. If we are restful within, then our interaction with the rest of the world also will be harmonious. This statement could raise a counter question. Well, we may be enjoying peace of mind when we are engaged in our private duties and responsibilities. We do not involve any interaction with other people. In our day-to-day life, we may have to interact with people who may not be yogis, who may be just the opposite of that, may create problems. They may not be enjoying peace of mind. So they may not be very eager to be very harmonious or peaceful in their interaction with us. So how to coexist with them? That's a very practical question. So Gita says, well, this is possible by looking upon the world as essentially non-permanent. The world itself, by its very nature, can never be permanent and can never be perfect. The world itself can never be perfect. Everything in this world is changing. So once we realize that the world could be diverse, people could be of diverse dispositions, belonging to different characteristics. So we can't expect the world to be what we want it to be. So we may have to accept the reality of the world is, but once we understand that this is the relative nature of the world itself is relative, it is not an absolute reality, then our interaction with the rest of the world will not be a problem. This is the first part of that verse which I quoted now. Seeing inaction in action, which is rationally simple, at least it appears to be so. Because once we recognize the fact that we are not just limited to the physical dimension of a personality or the psychological and mental dimensions, we are something beyond all this. So physical problems, of mental problems like happiness or unhappiness do not affect the true nature of a personality. Once we realize this, then we can be active in the world, at the same time stay in a state of perfect blissfulness and happiness. That is the art of seeing inaction in action. This is one aspect. Now, how to see action in inaction? That's a technical point which is not directly related to this, but I shall explain this. Now, seeing action in action, inaction means freedom or withdrawal from action. If we are really not active, Gita tells us we are something beyond this body, beyond this mind, we are the all-pervading Atman or reality, which is not engaged in any action. It is the body that is engaged in action. It is mind that is engaged in action, the intellect. The Atman itself is never engaged in any action. So Atman, which is never engaged in action, can never withdraw itself from action. Therefore, there is neither action nor inaction, going beyond the state of both action and inaction, and to stay in a state of perfect blissfulness, which is our true nature, is the implication behind this yoga, behind these aspects. I have given, now this is only the beginning of the class, I will tell you now the impact of this teaching on the mind of the disciple who listened to this great yoga philosophy as it was expounded by the teacher Lord Krishna. I can take you back to Gita again. As I said earlier, Gita contains only 700 verses. It is part of a larger work, Mahabharata. Mahabharata has got different versions. The shortest version contains 100,000 verses, and the largest version contains 145,000 verses. So there are 3-4 versions available of Mahabharata. So you can easily imagine Gita is only a fraction of this huge classical work, which is estimated to be 12 or 13 times as big as Homer's Iliad and Odyssey put together. That is the size and the dimension of this work. And this text begins with a discussion between two great thinkers. One was a very ordinary man. He was a learned person, but spiritually he was a very ordinary person. He was a student. His name was Arjuna. The teacher was Krishna, who was a great philosopher, a great spiritual personality of ancient times in India. Now, there was a family feud, and Arjuna was the disciple. Arjuna was a soldier by profession. Now, it was his duty to protect the weak, the women folk, and the common people from evildoers. You can say, you can look upon Arjuna as a policeman or a soldier who is deployed in the border, or maybe who is employed to protect the common people, peace-loving people from terrorists or aggressors. That is the position of Arjuna. He has come to the battlefield, and then he becomes completely depressed. It's not that he doesn't want to fight. The problem was he was trying to avoid his duty and responsibility. As I said earlier, this war is often interpreted by many commentators as a war that takes place within our mind. Sometimes we have a tendency to delude ourselves into thinking what we want to think. That problem is dealt with in the Gita. Now Arjuna, seeing in front of him people who were somehow related to him by lineage or by kingship, refuses to do his duty as a soldier. It's not, please remember, he was not a non-violent person. Arjuna was a soldier and had built up a very good reputation as a great soldier. Such a person, it's like a farmer refusing to do his duty as a farmer, or a professor who refuses to teach in a university and taking salary every month. That is what Arjuna was like. Now, and he gives a lot of reasons for not engaging in his duty and responsibility. And at the end of the verse, at the end of the book, Krishna asks him a question. Now, are you free from your doubts and your conflicts? The answer given by Arjuna is, well, by your grace, I am now free from my doubts and my conflicts. So at the beginning of the book, there is a man who was facing a great dilemma, a great, highly depressing condition. He wanted to do his duties and responsibilities, but he could not bring his mind to do that. And at the end of the book, after listening to these teachings of yoga, Krishna asked him this question, Nashto moha smidar labdha tat prasadat maya achyudas chidosmi gata sandeha karishe vachanandava. The last question is put by the teacher to the student after teaching the whole of yoga philosophy in the Gita. Now are you free from doubts and conflicts? Now is it clear to you what is your duty and what is your responsibility? Arjuna tells, well, now it is clear to me as to what I should do, what I should not do. Now when he was facing a problem, he was deluded and he was thinking that he can avoid the problems of work by avoiding work itself. Every work has its problems. Our mind and intellect and our body never keeps quiet for 1 minute. If you just watch our own personality, we find every second our mind is active. Even when you are sitting on an easy chair, doing nothing, relaxing, even then you find mind is speculating, mind is thinking, which is nothing but action. So we can never keep quiet even for a split second, both physically and mentally. We can never do that. That point is made by Krishna in the text. Nahi kasik shanam abhi jadu tishtati akarma kurdu karyadehi avashak karma sarva pragati jayehi gunehi. There is a great psychological problem raised in this verse, and the problem is solved by Krishna. Krishna puts this problem straight before his disciple. Please remember, you can never avoid action. Even if you physically avoid action, and even if you sit on an easy chair in a 5-star hotel, thinking that you are taking rest, your mind will be full of disturbing thoughts and conflicting thought currents. It is certainly not a state of restfulness. So our mind is active. In fact, if you are physically inactive and mentally, if your mind is full of conflicting thoughts, that is much more exhausting. That will have a much more crushing effect on the mind and body than mere physical action. Sitting quiet, speculating and thinking, engaging in conflicting thought currents, that is the cause of many psychological problems and also many criminal tendencies. So Krishna makes a point, if you do not work as a master, you will have to work as a slave. A very great psychological truth is put here. We can work as a master. How do we work as a master? When we work full of desire, full of ambition, full of motivation, and full of selfish attachment to the work and also to the results of the work. We are working as slaves. We are the slaves of our ambitions. We are the slaves of our desire, our selfishness. So anybody who is engaged, who is always engaged in selfish action, full of selfish attachment, with selfish motive, such a person is working as a slave. Selfish motives become the masters and we become the slaves. Suppose we can work without selfish motive, without selfish desires, then work becomes our slaves, we become the masters. Because it is selfish attachment or selfish desire that creates problems in the mind, that enslaves our mind, that keeps our mind in a state of total misery. So, Krishna makes a point, if you do not make an attempt to free yourself from selfishness, you will have to work as a slave of your own selfish desires. So try to make an attempt to work without selfish desire. And if you do that, you will be the master, and your work will not be able to dictate terms to you. Selfish desires will not be able to dictate terms to our mind. Otherwise, Krishna makes karyatehi avashak karma sarva pragudijehi guneki. The Sanskrit verse contains a lot of psychological insight. Avasha means miserable, helpless. See, a totally helpless person who cannot get out of it. He doesn't want to do work, but goes on working, as many people do. Given a choice, given an option, they will be very happy to go to a lonely place and enjoy peace of mind. Even a trillionaire, even a billionaire, even if he wants to go to a lonely place and meditate or engage himself in spiritual thoughts, he will say, but what to do? I cannot do that. But he is a trillionaire, a billionaire. In fact, he is not in need of money. He has got everything. But still such a person may tell you, well, I can't help it. I have to be active 12, 13 hours of the day. Now, who is the slave here? That person is the slave. So what's the use of the heavy bank balance? Building up a huge industrial empire? Still slaves of our own selfish motives and desires. Now, Krishna says, if you do not make an attempt to free yourself from this selfish desire, selfish attachment, selfish motives, you will be condemned to work as a slave throughout your life. Even if you can afford to take vacation, to spend some time in spiritual contemplation, we delude ourselves into thinking that our presence is very much needed in this world, in this profession. Therefore, we cannot get out of this. What is the chain that binds us to this world? Maybe the chain is a chain made of gold, but the binding effect is equally terrible. Whether the chain is made of gold or made of iron, the effect is the same. Sometimes these selfish desires become the masters and we become slaves. So Krishna says, Karyadehi avasyak. Avasya means absolutely helpless, totally helpless. When we are enslaved by our senses, we lose spiritual freedom. When we make the humblest, smallest effort to free ourselves from this tyranny of the senses, then we are entering the path that leads us to real freedom. Your freedom from the senses is spiritual freedom. Freedom given to the senses is spiritual slavery. Translated into modern medical language, that slavery manifests itself as hypertension, diabetes, suicidal symptoms, all these problems. So Krishna gives a solution. Try to work as a master. How do we do that? Work with total dedication, total application, with full focus and efficiency, but mentally think that you are something beyond this body, beyond this mind, beyond this physical frame, that you think is going to enjoy the fruits of this material pleasure. We are going to enjoy the fruits of these accumulated millions of dollars. If we can think of ourselves as something that goes beyond all this, then we can work with efficiency, with dedication, and do our work successfully. But we can work as masters and not as slaves. If we can work as masters, then we can enjoy peace of mind, harmony within. At the same time, we can live an integrated, complete and total life in this world. This is only the introduction. We'll continue this program next Friday, the same time, 7:30. Every Friday we'll have classes in this temple. So thank you. Namaskar. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Order.